Get this off my screen! Why? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to more KOF. Last time, we had reached peak, maximum impact. Probably the greatest part of any fighting game retrospective I have seen at all. I don't think Thorgi will be able to top himself after introducing us to maximum impact. I loved everything that we saw last time. And I'm very interested, though, to see where we go from here, because it seems like we're heading back to mainline KOF. And I know that some of these games look absolutely beautiful, but what's the story behind them? Let's find out. Of course, if for some reason you haven't already, support Thorgi. The link at the top of the description, like always.
It is time to return to the mainline games as we now discuss King of Fighters 13. A game that has been called one of the best King of Fighters games. In fact, one of the best games of the decade. And is hailed to this day as a shining example of great mechanics and gorgeous sprite work. And wait, whoa, hold up, whoa. This isn't right. We did King of Fighters 11, then Maximum Impact, and now we're on King of Fighters 13. Am I?
Oh, no! Not the Persona 4 Golden music! Not the freaking piano! No!
Am I forgetting something? Something that everyone who talks about King of Fighters forgets? It feels like someone reached back through time and erased our memories of something, but what could it be? What came before King of Fighters 13? We talked about King of Fighters 11, and now we're on 13, but if there was an 11 and a 13, then...
Okay. I am so scared. I didn't think I would get a PTSD flashbacks during the very start of King of Fighters of all things to Persona 4. But I'm assuming what is happening here is a Devil May Cry 2 doesn't exist situation.
That must mean that there was an... Oh, no!
Surely nothing bad.
Surely. This is certainly an intro.
Got nothing on the back to impact, though, I'm afraid.
The King of Fighters 12.
Oh, that's such a boring voice. Come on. Where's King of Fighters? Maximum Impact. Come on. We need him back. We need him for 16.
King of Fighters 12 was released in arcades in April of 2009 and on home consoles in July of the same year. And oh man, this is a weird one to talk about. Because to put it bluntly, King of Fighters 12 doesn't exist. Because King of Fighters 12 is just the beta version of King of Fighters 13. Yes, production on King of Fighters 12 started shortly after King of Fighters 11, and they knew they wanted this game to be the first big title of theirs on the 7th generation of consoles, which meant it was time to finally give these sprites the overhaul.
Look at that person in the background.
She's going ham. Yeah, all the backgrounds are a lot more vibrant. There's a lot more movement, that's for sure. We've, I think we definitely stepped up from the previous mainline KOF game.
All they so desperately needed. Again, this was really impressive what SNK was doing on such old hardware, but you can only clean up an old sprite so much. Now they were going to scrap everything and build a brand new game from the ground up with brand new sprites for every single character. But here's the thing.
These sprites look fantastic.
The reason King of Fighters were able to keep coming out so frequently was because they reused assets. Dropping everything and starting fresh was going to take time, especially considering how they were making these sprites. They wanted them to look as good as possible, so they decided to create 3D models for these characters and then painstakingly drew over every single frame of their animation to create the sprite.
Is this how you would normally do it if you wanted to make the movement fluid?
No, normal is not the right word here. Rotoscoping over 3D models isn't new. And nowadays you can have programs to basically do that for you in 3D, but it is a very painstaking process because you effectively have to do the work twice. You have to do the 3D modeling, animate it in 3D, and then even though you're tracing over it, you're still effectively completely reanimating in 2D. Whereas like with rotoscoping, traditionally you just have to film someone, right, and rotoscope for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of work.
I see. But I guess they specifically chose this method because it would give them the best results, quote unquote, or like the style that they were going for, the look they needed. I mean,
it can give you some real cool results. Like I've seen, because the strengths of 3D is consistency. So like, and you'll see this a lot modernly with like camera movements. When you want something 2D but with an intense camera movement, that's where they'll tend to do it nowadays.
Okay.
But I see in something like this, if you want like a character's proportions to be completely consistent, then this would be the best way to do that. Because when you draw something by hand, it's just based on you and your ability to visualize a person 3D in your head to try and keep that consistency. But with a 3D object, that doesn't change no matter how you rotate it around the camera.
And hey, everyone has already said, but it's worth pointing out, this game does look amazing. This was a huge undertaking, but it paid off. These new sprites were rocketing KOF's art style into the next generation. I mean, just look at the in-between frames on this one arm thrust from Ryo. Okay, that's a very small thing, but damn, it probably took them days to animate just that. Wait, did I say days? I'm sorry. I meant months.
Well, that's what I mean. You see that arm movement, that's showing the consistency of anatomy that you wouldn't normally get easily in 2D.
I mean, if this was 2D, I would assume that you would use a few tricks in order to skip certain frames because it still looks good in motion.
I mean, that's where smear frames tend to come in 2D because it gives you motion without having to have any sort of consistency. When you have characters rotating and doing things like, you know, roundhouse kick or something like that, having that 3D model to give you the exact anatomy on that entire 3D turnaround, that's going to be your greatest benefit here.
In an interview with Japanese gaming site Fighters Frontline, the game's producer Masaki Kukino said that every single character took 16 to 17 months to draw. I don't mean it took them 16 to 17 months to create all the characters. No. I mean to make one character, it would take them almost a year and a half. Well, luckily, they had a fully...
you got multiple people doing multiple characters, so it would be one character per year. But yeah.
I mean, thinking back on the scale of how SNK projects used to be when it came to KOF, there was that one KOF game where one person was doing like 6 or 7 different characters. Now we need an entire team working on one particular character for like a year and a half. Oh my god.
This is where something like Guilty Gear Xrd, when it came out with their 3D models, was so crazy because they basically did the flip side of this and they made their 3D look 2D as opposed to using 3D as a base for 2D. And the shader that they innovated, because they created that shader from scratch for Xrd, and it is phenomenal.
It does,
but it gives
really
you that same
good,
ultimate effect in the end, right? Of that consistency and movement. They actually also have smear frames in Xrd, which is also crazy. So
that's a 3D model with smear frames,
literally the best of 3D and a lot of 2D application applied to it to make it even more cool and polished. It's interesting to see how people are kind of looking for that same style, but taking different approaches to get there.
This one certainly gives us a very different look from how Xrd looks. This is probably what they wanted to go for, but there wasn't really any other way to achieve this sort of look outside of the painstaking work that it would take here. Like, I always talk about, well, I don't always talk about it, but whenever I talk about editing is really like that job where you spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours working on 5 seconds of footage that somebody will just like blink and probably miss. but other people may see and subconsciously appreciate it. I can't imagine being an animator, man. That is like editing times 20. You do so much work for one frame of animation that nobody's gonna see. But ultimately, together, it works.
Shows like Adventure Time and people have like dubbed it the Cal art style, right? That very simplified art style works really well in animation because it takes less time to draw. And you can do more cartoony effects like those smears and exaggerated movements, and it looks more natural in it. When you go for something much more detailed and realistic, you're upping that time spent on each frame by like incredible amounts. Like from maybe an hour per frame to like days per frame. Like you're
I can't imagine trying to animate Spider-Punk, not gonna lie. That shit seems impossible.
Spider-Punk is an even different set of interesting things. Because in Spider-Verse, then, they had... Because in 3D, by default, you run at a higher frames per second. I want to say Maya defaults to 24 frames a second. It could be wrong. But traditional 2D animation is done on 12 frames per second.
Yeah.
So you'll have a lot of things, especially pre-Spider-Verse, that would try to do that 2D style by just limiting frames. And it looks choppy. I think one of the biggest examples is Dragon Prince. People didn't like it, because when you see 3D, you're expecting better frame rates.
Yeah.
And it just is visually jarring. So the fact that Spider-Verse was able to actually stylistically minimize frame rates, and then for Spider-Punk, they took that even further and have him running at a different frame rate to that effect behind him, which is at an even lower frame rate. Meaning they have to manually key all those things, which I can only imagine.
Oh,
I hate 3D animation for all those reasons. But
yeah.
Oh boy.
Regardless, a nightmare for all parties involved. To make animation look good takes a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, they only had 10 designers because when swapping to a brand new console generation and a brand new art style, you really want to make sure that you're understaffed as well. Oh, and you know what? While we're at, let's also put everyone on a tight deadline that cannot be changed for any reason. Yes, this game was going to be released in 2009 to line up with King of Fighters' 15th anniversary, whether it was ready or not. And it was beginning to look like that was going to be a big fat not, because in 2008, when the arcade version of the game was meant to have its original location test, they had to delay those tests for 5 months. Imagine if a modern-day fighting game told everyone that they were going to have a weekend beta test, then suddenly they announced, oh, sorry, we're actually going to push that back by almost half a year. On the list of things that let you know your game's development isn't going well, that falls right below our studio was built on an ancient burial ground. But the next year, they were able to do it. They were able to meet the deadline, and the game was released. Kind of, because this was the most bare-bones King of Fighters to date.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's gotta be a pretty minimal roster.
It has to be, and I don't blame them. The game looks fucking phenomenal, but like the amount of work required for every single character, like the usual roster for a King of Fighters game would be insane. You need like so many more people outside of just the 10 designers. That's not enough people, man.
You're probably looking at these stages and thinking, wow, they look amazing. They're so colorful and exploding with life. And you're right, these stages are great. There are also only 6 of them. One of which is just the nighttime version of another stage. So, okay, that's not great. But it's not the most important thing. This was the conclusion to the Ash Crimson saga after all. So, what was the story this time, and who were the teams? There was none, and there were none.
No.
We didn't have time. We tried so hard to get the game to actually look this way. Please understand. Oh, SNK, why do you do this? Is this why we go bankrupt again? Is this why? I'm almost 100% certain. Oh, jeez.
Oh, boy. But they'll get King of Fighters 13 out just in time before they go bankrupt.
We'll see.
We have to keep up the trend. The most polished game comes as they're on their...
on their way out, they just drop an absolute banger. That's how it's always gonna be, it seems.
Yes, because of the tight deadline, SNK had to put the game out in an as-is condition. So whatever they had ready at the time was what went into the game. And while they made sure to get the important characters like Ash and Kyo and Iori done, they didn't exactly go down a list making sure that every single team got done all at the same time. Meaning they couldn't exactly release a storied installment of KOF where not all of the characters on each team were there. You couldn't go into the character select screen and then see Iori standing next to 2 question marks. So because of this, they said the game would be a dream match. Now if you remember, the previous 2 storylines fully played out over the course of 3 chapters, then they would have a 4th chapter that was a non-canonical dream match.
Yeah.
These dream matches had no story, but they did bring back a bunch of the characters from previous games as a way to celebrate the series. Well, this dream match wouldn't be a celebration, more of an, oh crap, this is the only way any of this can make sense because none of this is ready on time. Because of this, the game only had 20 characters at launch in the arcades and 22 on home releases, meaning...
I'll be honest though, 20 on launch
I was gonna say
is kind of a lot.
There are some games that have come out more recently. I'm not gonna say any names, but with significantly less characters than that.
Yeah.
So
good job.
You know,
good job, SK. Like they had a bar that was super high before this. And comparatively to modern fighting games that are released nowadays, they kind of surpassed the roster there, and it looks amazing. So I can't even blame them.
This game that was forced to be released so it could celebrate the first game coming out 15 years ago now had a smaller roster than the first game 15 years ago. We had Ash Crimson, Duo Lon, Shinwoo, Kyo, Benimaru, Goro Diamond, Terry, Andy, Joe, Ryo Sakazaki, Robert Garcia, Leona, Ralph Clark, Athena, Sai Kinzu, Shingen Sai, Kin Kapwan, and Iori, who now no longer used his flames. Why didn't Iori use his flames? Don't worry about it. Don't ask those questions.
We didn't get the animations done in time. I'm almost certain. I'm almost certain
and there was
of that.
only one new addition to the game, Raiden. I talked about him for a second in part 1 when he was a cut character from the first game, but he was a heel wrestler who used to work for Geese Howard, and while he did turn his life around and become a good guy going by Big Bear, clearly that didn't pan out and he was now back to his old dirty ways.
Oh, okay.
Then when the game came to home consoles,
saw
they add
the Fatal
Elizabeth
Fury
and the
retrospective.
returning Mature. Why was Mature here? Why was she back? And
Who
where's her
knows?
partner Vice? Hey, what did I say about asking questions? It's a dream match. Don't worry about it. Yeah, King of Fighters was always known for huge rosters, with their dream matches being the biggest of them all. And now this dream match had a smaller roster than most of the other new fighting games on the market at the time. And what's worse is that this game, that was, again, meant to celebrate the 15th anniversary of the series, was missing some of the biggest faces of the series.
Where's my?
No bosses, no K-Dash, no Yuri, no King, and of course...
You may have noticed that a very important character from the Fatal Fury series was not included. Yes, Mai Shiranui.
And fans
No buy? No buy.
were particularly upset about that last one as they took to the internet to start a campaign called No My, No Buy. Wow, with a campaign like that going into Shock Maximum Impact 2 didn't sell better. And the characters that were here had severely reduced movesets. Only a handful of characters had more than one super, and most characters were missing moves from previous games. However, I will give the game this. Despite the reduced movesets, I still really dig this combat. It feels great to me. Finding out what combos together is fun. It feels good to experiment. There's a solid combat system in here. Or at least the start of one. Yeah, remember, this was not the game they wanted to make. It's the game that was available by the due date. So this is easily the simplest KOF since probably KOF 95 or 96. It's back to the original team setup, so no more of that tagging in and out stuff. You only had one bar for supers, and...
That's about it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yep.
As I said,
makes
this
sense.
game was massively simplified compared to other King of Fighters, and even
Elizabeth
though
looks
I
great, though.
suspect that was probably
She does, but I do prefer her original design more for personal reasons.
I prefer this one.
crunch schedule, it might actually have been intentional because before King of Fighters 12 came out, the game's producer, Masaki Kukino, said, quote, "These days I feel fighting games have become too complicated. So we decided to get back to basics." Ah, good plan. Because if there's one thing I know about fighting game fans, it's that they're always very accepting of a game simplifying themselves for new audiences, and they never complain incessantly for years on end about that, to the point where it turns any online discussion of the game into a toxic nostalgia dump. Boy, that Guilty Gear retrospective is going to be a fun one to do.
Oh boy. Yep. Even still till nowadays, people are like, Roman cancels have been simplified. The gameplay mechanics are trash, man, and Strive. I'm gonna go back and play a real game, like an Xrd. Or I forget. The naming sense for Guilty Gear games does not help in me remembering which one comes first.
No.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, the game was massively simplified. It really only featured 2 unique mechanics. A block that instantly counters, and another mechanic that is actually one of my favorite mechanics in the entire franchise.
Oh my.
Yeah, I bet you didn't see that coming.
Maximum?
Whenever I hear people talk about this game, they only talk about how it's an inferior version of KOF 13 and how it's an incomplete version of KOF 13, but I never hear anyone talk about the fact that this game actually does have its own unique mechanic that only appeared in here. As you fought, a bar would fill up, and once it was full, it would slowly start draining. But before time ran out, if you countered your opponent with a standing heavy attack, then it would perform a critical counter, and man, do I love this. When you perform a critical counter, the camera zooms in, everything slows down, and then every single one of your moves link together, allowing you to build your own custom combo. I love mechanics that let you know that you did something awesome, and when you land that critical counter, everything just freezes and it becomes anime time after that. Yo! In fact, it's not just the critical counters.
I mean, that does look really damn satisfying.
True. Mm-hmm.
It's like, in Grand Blue, there is sort of that animation whenever you do a move that clashes with your opponent perfectly, and then it freezes for like a half second so they can move immediately again after that. That's what it reminds me of, but this one is like, ooh, in that moment during a fight where you actually land a blow and you're like, oh, hell yeah, it's time to go all in. Yeah, I love that idea a lot. Need more of this.
Good. The sound design and all the little effects from when you hit each other actually do make this...
This game reminds me of Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, a Fragmentary Passage.
Interesting.
Which was basically the tech demo for Kingdom Hearts 3 that came out. It was initially meant to be the prologue, but they put it out as a part of the 2.8 collection. And it has a lot of things that ended up carrying into Kingdom Hearts 3, but it had some things that didn't, including a cosmetic system that everyone hoped would come back, and it did not.
What? Why? Cosmetics are fun. People love them.
Right? Everyone liked putting the little cat ears on Aqua.
Incredibly basic combat feel really special. One thing I really enjoy about this game is that when you and your opponent hit each other at the same time, you then have this little clash effect, and then it instantly resets both of your combos, and you have to think to yourself, okay, do I restart my combo, or do I try and block in case my opponent is going to try and get their attack in first? It's a little thing, but it does spice up this otherwise very simple gameplay. But where would you be using these mechanics? No point in having combat if you don't have modes to use them in, right? Well, this was the start of the 7th generation, and fighting games at this time were all about the online scene. This is when online matches were easier to set up and you had much smoother connections than the previous generations. If you were a fighting game coming out at this time, you had to make sure that you had good online. And KOF 12's online sucked. Well, okay, I will admit, I am not speaking personally on this one. Normally, I don't like to badmouth things that I myself have not experienced, but I can't experience this because either the servers are offline or nobody's playing this anymore. But every review that came out for this game lambasted it for having horrendous online, with long load times and glitchy connections on their best day. So if you wanted to play this game, you were pretty much stuck with the offline content, which was next to nothing. The game came with an arcade mode, which was just time attack mode. Yes, once again, they decided to merge time attack mode and arcade mode, except this worked the exact opposite of how it worked in Regulation A. In that game, you had a limited amount of time to beat the whole arcade ladder. Well, in here, they keep track of how much time you take to beat each fight, then you're allowed to re-challenge each fight at least once for a better time, Then at the end, they add up all your times, tell you what that total time was, and then they tell you to replay the game again to try and get a better time. Yeah, they turn arcade mode into a time attack mode because since there's no story, and no team endings, and no special edit team gallery, there is no reason to replay the arcade mode again other than daring you to beat your best time.
There is absolutely no motivation at all, no incentive to play it again. Once you've done it once, you've done it all. So, yeah.
Unfortunate.
We really put way too much on our plate this time around. And
yeah.
we're suffering from it. But, I mean, 13 is on the horizon, I hope. We'll see how that one goes.
And I will admit, that is a nice challenge for about an hour. And then all the novelty is gone. And because of how this time attack is set up, this game has some of the worst AI in the franchise. Not because it's incredibly difficult. No. The computer isn't hard. It's just annoying. The computer is constantly jumping and rolling around. It's like it's hopped up on sugar. Even when I'm not doing anything, the AI is still freaking out. And eventually I realized, oh, it's bouncing around like a wild man, not because it's trying to beat me, but because it's trying to run down the clock and give me a worse score. Everything the computer does is designed to stall. The worst example of that is Athena, who just keeps spamming her reflect spell one on top of another.
Athena.
So the AI isn't trying to fight you, it's trying to be a dick and keep you from getting a trophy. They do try to spice the single player up by putting in these little cutscenes. You get this intro where they explain the time attack mode. You get this ending where they tell you your time. And there's one cutscene in the middle where they tell you that you're almost done, and for some reason, Jin Fu Ha from Art of Fighting 3 is there. Dude, why are you in the newsroom and why aren't you wearing a shirt? But these scenes are bare bones. I'm not kidding. This is the ending that you get for being arcade mode in its entirety.
The last time trial have just finished.
I love the English.
The time has come to announce the final results.
Yeah, I feel accomplished. Now go home.
Absolute cinema.
Absolute cinema.
Holy cow, you couldn't even give me like a shot of my team staying on a stage doing their victory poses? Like,
why is the other guy off in the corner? He's not allowed at the party.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he reports about the weather or something. He's just over there for the camera to swap over to him, yeah?
That was asking too
This guy
much.
took his spot.
And he's too timid to go up and ask for it. Like I would be too. Like, goddamn.
Wow. And yes, as you could tell from that clip, this game didn't have enough time to create any extra modes or any special art for being it.
The fact that it
Thank
exists
God they still
is...
had enough time for an English dub. Yeah, because that's what everyone was asking for. Yes, this game did still have an English dub, but you could tell the money for dubbing was running dry. So many of these characters are being voiced by actors who, hey, God bless them for trying, but it's clear that they didn't speak English fluently. In fact, a couple of the characters like Terry and Athena are just being voiced by their original Japanese voice actors. And then there's a few voices in here that, I swear it was just done by a robot. I'm not even kidding.
Welcome to the King of Fighters. Allow me to explain the rules of the tournament. Matches will be fought 3-on-3. The tournament will be played as a time trial.
Yeah, I've said it before, but this generation of KOF was when SNK wanted to make a big push for American audiences, and it's very clear they thought an English dub would help with that. I mean, heck, it certainly did for Street Fighter and BlazBlue.
Oh, yeah.
And hey, I'm not opposed to the idea of an English dub for KOF.
Oh, God, BlazBlue. Why the fuck did Central Fiction not get an English dub? I still remember that tweet from Ragnos VA and how he ended it so perfectly. I guess we weren't so central to the fiction after all. God damn!
That feels so bad, honestly. Oof.
KOF. But it's crazy to me that they never had any luck with that, and yet still, when everything was breaking down and SNK was racing to get this thing out the door in any kind of a functional state, someone at the company still bothered to shout out, "But the English dub! How will Americans play this if they don't have an English dub?" So they still made sure to set time and money aside for that dub. but it was so clearly slapped together at the last second that instead of winning audiences over with it, it probably turned them away.
That just does more worse.
It is a
bad than good.
double-edged sword. We've talked about this before. I feel like it is better to have no voice acting than to have bad voice acting that takes you out of the immersion of the game. And I know some people disagree with me, but I genuinely think that I would much rather the game not have any voice acting. Or even better, the original Japanese dub. That is more immersive to me than whatever that robot voice was.
And that brings me to the sales. When the game came out, it was met with some of the worst reviews of the entire franchise. The game got grilled for everything from the online to the roster to the content. Word of mouth was bad on this game. And that translated into the sales, as this game only sold a little over 250,000 units, which, okay, was a lot better than Maximum Impact 2 and even better than King of Fighters 11, but it was still a far cry from Maximum Impact 1. And
I mean, especially with how much we've likely invested into this game, like with how we're creating completely new models for it too, and all the work that's gone into it. How many hours of work time do we have to pay for all the people at the company? Yeah, no, this is the flop. I'm just waiting for it after 13. Well, like in the middle of creating 13, the company's going to go bankrupt, and then everybody's just at home, just like, you know, still completing the animations and doing all the stuff so that the game actually gets released.
I'm saying.
I'm pretty sure it's going to go that direction.
How much more time this game took to get made, it needed to bring in much higher numbers.
Yeah.
And speaking of Maximum Impact, I had some people on Twitter wondering why I was talking about both Maximum Impact and the Ash Saga in a single video. It's not like the stories or characters overlap in any way. True, they didn't. But the sales and development sure did. Now, I'll admit, no one at SNK has ever spoken about this, so this is all just speculation on my part. I can't stress that enough. But it did seem crazy to me that SNK knew how long these sprites were taking to get made. Maybe not when they started, but after a year of development, they definitely had an idea of how long this game would take to get made, meaning they should have known well ahead of time that they were not going to be able to reach that deadline for the 15th anniversary.
They should have.
So the way I see it, I think one of two things happened. Either the team started working on this game, but then Maximum Impact 1 performed so well that SNK took resources away from this game and put it towards the 6 Maximum Impact sequels they wanted. Maybe they didn't directly take it away. They didn't walk into the office and start moving desks over to the Maximum Impact office. No, that didn't happen. But when it came time for the team working on KOF 12 to ask for the money and staff they needed, it wasn't available because SNK had already spent it on these surprise Maximum Impact sequels.
Oh boy.
The other option, maybe King of Fighters 12 was never supposed to come out for the 15th anniversary in the first place. Remember, Maximum Impact was...
Oh yeah, it was probably going to be a Maximum Impact game then that they had planned for that, and then that flopped, so now we have to pivot really quickly, but now we don't have the money anymore because he spent it all on Maximum Impact. And the horrible-ass marketing, calling it, what, 2006? KOF 2006 or whatever? God.
Yeah.
Damn, we've done so many, like, poor decisions, and yet we still make really fucking good games. What is wrong with us? Oh man,
it was the game that they put out for the 10th anniversary, so maybe they plan on giving King of Fighters 12 all the time it needed because, hey, don't worry about it. We got 6 Maximum Impact games planned out, and because we're using a ton of recycled elements for those games, we can just keep pumping them out left and right. You'll be fine. Take all the time you need.
That makes sense, yeah.
Only for Maximum Impact 2 to bomb, Regulation A to do just as bad, and now SNK was running into the KOF 12 office and screaming, Maximum Impact is canceled. Get your act together because you're going on stage in 5. I don't know which of these options it was, or heck, maybe it was some kind of a combination of the two. But when you look at the timetable and you realize Maximum Impact was never supposed to get any sequels, then when it got a sequel, 5 more were supposed to come out right after that, then they were all canceled. There is no way Maximum Impact didn't, forgive the pun, impact the development of KOF 12.
Yeah.
And it sucks that they couldn't give this team more time because they only needed 1 more year. That's all. Because the very next year, SNK would release the completed version that they had always intended to make,
13.
and it would become one of the best King of Fighters ever.
That's why we forget about 12, I see. My god. I think there's actual story happening.
What? Impossible.
Why Shiranui? I'm buying this game.
As simple as that.
Wait, what? Ash with long hair? Gotta try this game out.
King of
It's so
Fighters
good.
13.
King of Fighters 13 was released in July 2010 in arcades and the next year in November on home consoles. And this one, ooh man, this right here is a good one. I've heard many people call
I'm
this
just
the
realizing
best King of
this
Fighters.
came
Heck,
out
I've
in
heard
2010. Didn't King of Fighters 15 like just come out?
KOF 15 came out 2022. February.
Oh, never mind. I thought it was more recent than that. But still, that's the big jump from going yearly to.
I assume the company was dead until it more
Yeah.
recently got bought. That's
Probably.
probably what happened. Because we did do the swap to 3D models to make development time a little bit easier on the entire team, which is probably going to be a smart move in the long run, honestly.
They just have to figure out their style for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 15 looks a lot better than 14, that I will say. So they are improving. We'll have to see how 16 goes.
people say this is one of the best fighting games of the decade, and after going back and returning to it for this video, yeah, they might be right. Mechanically speaking, it's still the original team format, but in terms of new gameplay mechanics, well, you had the super meter that now went up to 3 bars, but each time a teammate was KO'd, it would increase by 1 bar, meaning you could get up to a total of 5 bars. And you could of course use this meter for supers, but for the first time ever, KOF 13 now let you do EX specials. Basically bigger versions of your normal specials that could have some added effect like knocking your opponent higher for better combo options. But the most important feature was a second meter that built up as you fought called the hyperdrive gauge. And you could use this gauge for a few purposes. First up, you could use half the gauge to perform a drive cancel, where you could cancel one special move into another. But if you had 3
Also, is it just me, or does it feel like this game in particular feels like more zoomed out than what we saw the gameplay of 12?
It does feel a little, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you.
I wonder why. Honestly, I kind of prefer it because we get to see more of what's happening and what's happening on stage. But I wonder what that decision was. If there was like some sort of feedback on it. Also, I wanted to mention that I noticed Hinako over there in the background. She's just standing there, just blushing. I don't know if she's a part of the roster, but she's there.
gauge to perform a drive cancel, where you could cancel one special move into another. But if you had 3 bars of your super meter and your hyperdrive gauge was filled, then you could perform your most devastating attack, the Neo Max Super Special Move, which might be the most anime sounding name I have ever read. These are massive super moves that can often fill up the entire screen, and they do feel good to use, but there's a way to make them amazing. You see, when your hyperdrive gauge is full, you can enter hyperdrive mode. And while in this mode, not only can you perform as many drive cancels as you want, meaning you can do some really crazy stuff, but also, now your Neo Max Supers only cost 2 bars instead of 3, and you can cancel into them from your regular supers. And when you pull
This
this
is
off,
the kind of stuff that I'm like, I feel like fighting games just go over my head. If you go into this state and do this thing with this thing prepped, then you could do this thing. But if you have this thing, you can cancel it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I feel that. Honestly, I'm trying to follow it. I can somewhat understand it because I have tried it, but like, I don't play funny games at that level where I could just do it off rip. It's something that I practice still. And like, even in 15, I still don't really know how to use max mode efficiently, or even go into it efficiently. Like, when do I do it? I don't know. But yeah. You can still enjoy funny games without paying attention to any of this. Thorgi is just listing this out because this is like a feature of the game.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, then when you like listen to fighting game people talk about it, like these things matter. They care. Like this is stuff part of like a competition, and they're like, we'll time all these things. I'm like, I admire it, but I don't think I could do it.
That's kind of the thing with, I think, really any niche that people really enjoy, is that people within that niche will have a certain opinion about it and have opinions about like what casuals would find interesting in that. But then when you ask an actual casual to the scene, they will have probably a completely different opinion. It's because, you know, they can't see it from their perspective anymore. You're just so far into the fighting games that you don't really know what casuals like or enjoy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of need like I guess a more well-rounded perspective or survey on things to really see what people would enjoy and try to balance certain aspects between like casuals and competitive players.
It's a tough balance, I know, especially for fighting games.
It is tough. There are certain things that developers have done that is to get casuals into the game, but it like completely removes a lot of the competitive scene or the like skill expression from the game. So yeah, there's always going to be that clash there.
Just right, it's one of the most satisfying feelings in the game. When you hit an opponent with a super and then you just see everything freeze as you activate your Neomax, ooh, it just lets you know that you did something cool. And sure, it takes a lot of meter and just the right setup to pull something like this off, and as I said, I am pretty stingy when it comes to my cool moves budget, but even I think this is totally worth it. Comboing supers into Neomaxes can decimate your opponent's life. I mean, just look at this. I'm not even doing anything crazy and it still takes off almost all their life. I have to say, I'm so happy that I got to go back to this game and really dedicate some time to it for this video, because as I said, people call this one of the best fighting games of the decade. And while I did appreciate a lot of things about when I played it before, it never really blew me away like it did everyone else. I mean, I would play this game and I would walk away from it saying, yeah, this is good. It's, you know, it's good. That's about all I really had to say about it. But after going back to it and pumping hours and hours into it and really sitting down and trying to learn all the mechanics and how everything works in this game, yeah, I finally get it. I see why it's so good. But also I see why I didn't really dig it so much before. It's because there's so much amazing stuff that you can do in this game, but the timing on everything is super tight. You want to link those two special moves together? You have to link them at just the right moment. You want to link your super into your Neomax? Well, there's a couple of supers that give you plenty of time, but a lot of other ones give you that one shot to get it just right.
Unlike with something like Guilty Gear, I think Guilty Gear Strive especially is pretty lenient on how you can do your super inputs and whatnot, and like the timing on certain moves. But I know a lot of older fighting games, as well as just SNK games in general, I think, they really require you to be on point. Well, not really frame perfect like the older fighting games, but pretty close. And so there's these like input techniques that a lot of people would do in order to kind of like spoof out the input or to make it easier to do said input within the amount of time that you have in order to make sure the specials cancel into each other. Yeah, for somebody new to fighting games, trying to get into like SNK games, you're going to have to learn a completely different set of skills from what you probably would learn by playing other games. Because yeah, you do need these like legacy inputs, let's say.
And that's just the stuff that the game teaches you. There is so much more to discover that you can only realize by diving in and experimenting. Like seeing how much maneuverability some of your moves give you that allow you to really whip around the stage in ways that enhance upon the short hops and rolls of the previous games. However, once you understand the timing, once you know when to cancel from one move into another, once you see how your moves can best be used to react to other attacks, you see a whole new world of possibilities open up to you. Once you get the timing in this game, you realize, wait, so that means that I can do this thing. And that means that I can then do this other thing. And that means I can then link those two different things together.
If I had to guess, though, just from
the OP
King of Fighters Past, it's an evil clone.
Evil clone of Ash. You know, I wouldn't be surprised.
Or maybe since Ash is a villain, it's a good clone.
It's the hero. It's Hero Ash. Come to save the world from Ash's grasp. You know? Fair enough.
That with how good and crunchy the sound effects are on every single hit and the shaking motion the impacts have that make every move feel so cool, and it makes this one of the most rewarding KOFs to play, whether that be competitively as you try and read all the possible actions your opponents can make and thinking about what you can do to counter that, or just going up against the computer and having fun with all the variety the game provides you with. Just to give you an example of what I mean, I hit an opponent with a special that popped them into the air, then I instantly canceled into sending Kyo's fireball across the floor, then the enemy fell down and perfectly landed on that fireball, and I thought, that's it, I've peaked. I should just stop playing fighting games now because I'm never going to do anything that cool again. And this level of complexity has brought a lot of players to this game.
Oh, but damn.
A few years ago, a decade after the game's
That game
release,
so good.
it suddenly saw a massive spike in
We're
popularity
looking at
online.
different things.
Oh, what did you say? You were looking at the back of the walk? Yeah, I was looking at that too, yeah.
As every FGC streamer and YouTuber out there start pumping out videos daily going through the game's trials, which are devastatingly difficult. But hey,
Yep.
if you don't want to learn all the
From what Chad has told me, the reason why it's difficult for them is because they don't know the legacy inputs and how to like spoof out the controls there. Because yeah, like if you do a quarter circle back and then the next move requires you to then again do like a quarter circle forward and then back, you can kind of like skip the back and just do the forward, which means that you would then have enough time for your fingers to actually do the motion to then cancel the supers into each other and whatnot. Something along those lines. It's complex. For you, Serby, you gotta learn how to press 3 buttons in a row first. We're getting there.
massive crazy combos that use multiple EX specials and supers and Neomax cancels, just doing a simple drive cancel here or there isn't too hard, and the basic combos feel really good all on their own. My only real complaint is that with all the cool stuff you need the drive gauge for, I wish it filled up a little bit faster, but in arcade mode, the game actually gives you achievements that you can pull off in match, and if you do them, then it instantly fills your meter by half. So, hey, if you just want to play arcade mode, then there's no problem. And you heard right, no more time attack modes disguised as arcade mode. Classic arcade mode was back, and it was a big deal, as every single character now had unique opening match dialogue with every other character. And this was years before NetherRealm started putting stuff like that in their games. And I'll admit, I don't think they needed them for everyone. There's a few that obviously they didn't know what to write for. I mean, I love K-Dash, but every single K-Dash exchange is just the other character saying, "Boy, you sure are grumpy," and that's about it. But a lot of these exchanges actually are great. They give the characters so much personality. And speaking of personality, the arcade mode once again has endings for every single team, each of which are drawn by Isuke Ogura, who is actually my favorite KOF artist. I'll admit a huge part of that is probably nostalgia, since he's the artist who worked on the endings to the first 2 KOF games that I ever played, but it's also because I think their art is the perfect balance between the Japanese anime style and the American comic book look that to me feels like where KOF style always existed.
It's
And
a
their
good
art is
style.
so
I like
colorful, it just has this overflowing feeling of fun to it. I love these endings. But their art isn't the only thing that looks good. The sprite work is still phenomenal, even better than the last game, since they pulled the camera back so the pixels are a lot smoother. And you can even customize the colors of the characters. And I've seen people do some crazy stuff with these palettes. And the stages, these are hands down the best stages in the entire series. The animation and the energy in them is just as good as in 12, but they're larger and there's so many more of them. Heck, there are some stages that can only be accessed in versus mode, so even if you think that you're done with the game just going through arcade mode, there's so much more to find in here. And if you're a big SNK nerd, which if you're still watching at this point in time, you probably are, there are so many cameos and Easter eggs in these backgrounds, the best we've seen since KOF 2002. There's a Nako Shijo at a big sumo wrestler festival. There's Vanessa, Seth, and Ramon playing cards, and Seth is sweating because he's got a bad hand. There's a Tori Hanzo trying to figure out how to get back to his own time after being stranded here by Maximum Impact. After a dozen hours, I was still finding new characters poking their heads out in the background. Heck, you even see Shingo in some of these backgrounds with his arm bandaged up after he was attacked by Iori in the last game. These Easter eggs have lore to them. And speaking of lore, for the very first time, King of Fighters 13 actually had a story mode.
Let's go.
Yes, you no longer need to check the KOF website or an audio drama CD or a manga that never got translated to know what was happening. Sure, the story mode wasn't animated, but it was fully illustrated, and honestly, that's all you need. You don't need an expensive cinematic.
With how good this artwork looks, yeah, I agree. Like, we don't need a full-on OVA. Like, just give us
I would say
a
this
story.
is better than like Guilty Gear Stripe's cutscenes in a long time.
Damn.
That would have been better just as a still frame.
To be fair, we do acknowledge that the whole Guilty Gear Strive cutscenes and whatnot were made during COVID by like 3 people. And they did insane work on that. But yeah.
I'm just saying, sometimes a still image with just a good art style can do a lot more than just like rushed animation.
Yep.
Yes, it can.
Story mode in your fighting
That
game.
was my
Just enough illustrations to keep the plot going and keep the audiences entertained.
I love
And the
Stripe.
story even has splitting paths where you can choose individual teams to see what everyone was doing before they joined the tournament, giving you a reason to keep playing the game over and over. You can also decide to choose different paths to follow to see what the villains were up to, and depending on what team you choose, you can actually find special dialogue between them and the other teams that will fill in some important plot points. For example, SNK keeps referring to Kyo Kusanagi as a high schooler, despite the fact that time does move in the KOF universe, meaning years have passed since the very first game, and Kyo had obviously grown up since then. Well, if you play through the story with Kyo's team and you go up against Athena's team, they actually have dialogue explaining this. He dropped out. Yeah, they actually finally addressed that Kyo is an adult now, but between saving the world and Orochi and being kidnapped by Ness, yeah, he never managed to graduate and he ended up dropping out. I know it's a small thing, but as someone who is over 5 hours into a KOF retrospective talking about these characters' backstories and how everything links together, that did make me stand up and go, oh my god, they finally addressed it. We finally have an answer now.
You're telling me that Ash Ketchum actually grows up? Impossible.
What?
Yeah. I'm actually kind of glad for these like small little details that they add in, which don't seem to add a whole lot to the story, but it does address that, these characters are real and time is passing and things are happening. And yeah, it would make a whole lot of sense that if you're trying to save the world, you probably don't have a whole lot of time for high school.
And speaking of that story, yes, 7 years after it began, the Ash saga was finally coming to a close. So let's delve into that and begin by talking about the roster. Now, I'll start by saying this game has been criticized because people consider the roster to be too safe. And hey, as I said earlier, I love weird rosters, but I get why this one was so basic.
Yeah, that is a common complaint that I have seen from a lot of people. Whenever I say that, 13 looks pretty great, they'll immediately respond with, but the roster sucks. I'm like, damn, I just want to get hyped for a video game that looks cool, man. I'm sorry.
Remember, this game was meant to celebrate King of Fire's 15th anniversary, and according to Shane Binhauser, the business director for Ignition Entertainment who ported KOF 12 to home consoles, this game was meant to follow the theme, the rebirth of KOF. Oh, that is going to be so ironic in a moment.
Yeah.
But it is why the game's roster was so standard. They wanted to celebrate the big iconic faces of the series. First up, you got Kyo, Benimaru, and Goro Diamond forming Team Japan
Can we
again.
pause for a second?
Sure.
Batman needed his diaper changed.
Oh. He's wearing diapers?
Yes.
Aw, poor Batman.
He's becoming an old man and he can't control himself.
Damn.
Then Fatal Fury is the classic Terry, Andy, and Joe, with Terry going back to his original design because it played into the whole rebirth of KOF theme. Also going back to the classics was the Psycho Soldiers team, once again made up of Athena, Sai, and Chin. However, Athena and Sai saw a massive redesign. Or, more accurately, an undesign, I guess? Yes, Athena and Sai were given new looks designed to resemble how they appeared in their very first game, Psycho Soldier, way back in 1987.
So that's why, I see.
Very odd time to be paying tribute to that after all these years, but again, it was part of the whole rebirth of KOF theme. Then Team K-Dash returned with K-Dash, Maxima, and Kula. The Artifying team was the original Ryo, Robert, and Takuma. The Ikari Warriors was the standard Ralph, Clark, and Leona. And Team Women Fighters returned with Yuri, King, and of course, Mai. Yes, she was back, and SNK wanted you to know that. They put a big collage of her in the gallery mode that you can unlock parts of whenever you get an in-game achievement. Heck, they even put her right smack dab on the disc. You can practically hear the SNK dev screaming, "Here, here, she's right here. We did exactly what you asked of us, so please buy this game, okay?" So those teams were all pretty basic, but as for the more interesting lineups, Team Elizabeth returned with Elizabeth, obviously, Duo Lon, and now the third spot was filled out by Shin Woo, who after Ash sicked an aging Irish assassin on him in the last game, had a few questions and punches ready for his old friend. Kim Capellan once again had his own team, but after the last few games, people were beginning to doubt whether or not his whole reform program actually worked. So to prove it, he decided to get 2 new fighters to join him. The previously mentioned Raiden and Hua Jai, a Muay Thai champion who also used to work for Geese Howard, even being one of the mid-bosses in the original Fatal Fury alongside Raiden. Also, speaking of Team Kim, I love the soundtrack in this game, and I know it's probably an unpopular opinion, but the Team Kim theme, Tame a Bad Boy, is one of my favorite tracks in the entire series. The rising intensity of the notes, the smooth drum and bass beat all leading to this keyboarder just going off. It's got this great adventurous feeling to it, and it's one of those songs that I just...
Well, Kim looks so generic from the outside, but when we read the interview, he was such a funny dude. Like, I really like him a lot as a character, yeah.
This is like... His personality just does so much for me. I enjoy him a lot.
And his pants, too. Like, amazing pants.
Love to put on in the background no matter what I'm doing. Heck, I'm probably listening to it while I'm editing this video.
Hell yeah. I feel like taming a bad boy with this one.
And then there's the final team, Team Iori, made up of Iori, Mature, and Vice. Now, I know you might be thinking, wait, Mature and Vice?
But they're dead.
Aren't they dead?
Yeah.
Didn't Iori kill them in KOF 96 when he was overcome with the Orochi blood
Don't worry about it.
Yes, but there's a very good explanation for their return. They're ghost. No, I'm not kidding. That's the actual explanation. They're ghost. Yes, you see, Vice and Mature were part of the Hakeshu, the followers of Orochi. And when they died, their spirits joined Orochi. Well, those from the past had already weakened the Orochi seal in KOF 2003, and then in 11 they stirred Orochi awake, but Orochi could sense that his powers were being absorbed by those from the past, and he didn't like that. So he released Mature and Vice's spirits so that way they could go and team up with Iori to try and stop them. Now, why would Iori agree to this deal with the devil? Because after Ash stole the Magatama that gave Iori his flame powers, he was more than a little upset. Oh,
wait a minute. There's actual lore reason why Iori doesn't have the fire powers in this game? I thought they couldn't get it finished. No, never mind.
By Iori standards. Well, Iori's flame powers came from 2 sources. His family's Magatama and Orochi. Yeah, remember way back in part 1, I mentioned that his family, the Yasukani, originally fought against Orochi, but then the Hakeshu tricked the Yasukani into hating the Kusanagi clan, so that way the Yasukani would go and ally themselves with Orochi. Well, if Orochi was able to give his ancestors the power of the purple flame in the first place, then maybe teaming up with Vice and Mature could help him to get it back. That's also why Iori doesn't have his flame powers or many of his old moves in this game. Instead, he fights with powerful claw slashes, which was actually the fighting style of his Yasukani ancestors. It's a nice little detail in this game that I really enjoy. Now, that's all the teams in the game, so you're probably wondering, wait, where the heck is Ash? This is the conclusion to the Ash Crimson saga. How is he not here?
Oh, wait a minute. You're right. Ash isn't even in the roster.
Damn.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, he is. He's just not on a team. Yes, Ash Crimson was in here as a single entry character. The very first time a KOF hero was ever a single entry within their own storyline. You could fight him in the arcade mode if you got a high enough score before the 5th fight, and he wasn't the only secret character you could go up against. You remember how I mentioned the arcade mode gave you little objectives to hit that would give you a boost to your drive gauge? Well, if you did at least 2 of them per match, then you could fight Billy Kane. But if you managed to do 5 per match, then you could go up against Psyche. In case you forgot, Psyche is the leader of those from the past. Yes, the boss of the villain team for the whole storyline was not the final boss of the game. At least, not in this form. As for how he fights, Psyche is almost an echo fighter for Ash. They use very similar moves to them, except that while Ash uses charge inputs, Psyche uses more basic Shoto-style inputs. So he uses similar moves to Ash, and he even kind of looks like Ash.
Is this... Okay, maybe it's not clone, but it's time travel Ash. Maybe. Alternate dimension Ash?
Parallel.
I wonder if there's a story reason for that.
No, there's
Well,
not.
before we get into all that and see how this whole storyline wraps up, I think it's about time that we do something that we haven't covered in a while here. Before we end our video today, how about we take a quick look at what got cut?
Oh no.
Probably a fair bit.
Yeah, as you can imagine with the long production time of KOF 12 and 13, as well as being forced to push it to a release date before it was ready, there was a lot that got cut from this game. And a lot that got changed. For starters, while they did put into KOF 12, when it came to KOF 13, SNK finally gave up on the English dubs. You will not find any of that in here.
You know, fair.
Unless you can get your hands on the 1.0 model of the arcade
Wait.
release. Because in the data for that game, you can find sound files for the English dubs for
Oh
each
my
of the
God.
characters, including all the new characters that weren't in KOF 12, meaning these aren't just the leftover recordings from the last game. No, they actually spent money on brand
Oh,
new dubs
no.
for every single character. And then they just decided not to use it. And I have to wonder why. Don't get me wrong, these dubs were not good. It probably was a smart idea for them to not put it in, but the files are all here in the system. They already spent money on this and put in the game. They just didn't turn them on. Did they just have a change of heart at the last second? They spent
what it
so much
sounds
time
like.
and money on this. What was it at the very final second that caused them to decide not to put it in? I have no idea. And in the off chance that you really want to hear what these lines sounded like, don't worry, the modding community has your back as some tech wizards found a way to put them back into the game.
Of course they did.
Not exactly sure why you'd want to do that, but hey, it could be fun for a laugh.
This is what
Shits and
Kyokugen is
giggles.
all about!
Next up,
Yeah, it's
Yes.
fun for about an hour.
Iori wasn't originally going to be teaming up with Mature and Vice. No, originally he was going to be teaming up with the returning Oswald and a new character, a mysterious woman in a kimono.
Oh.
That's really all we know about her. There's no additional information on who this woman could have been, and
Don't think we have a woman in a kimono quite like this in 15. I don't know about 14, so I guess she never made it into the games.
I figure if she did, they would not just have to put a random picture of someone who's unrelated here.
Yeah, I guess so. True.
as far as I can tell, there's no artwork either. But I would love to know what the original plan for her might have been. Then if you look at early concept art for the game, you'll notice that Clark's design was very different. It was far more in line with what you'd expect of him. Clark never really struck me as the type of guy who would walk around shirtless. That's far more of a Ralph thing. Well, there's a reason for that. The devs were so pressed for time that in the end, it was easier for them to just put Clark's head on Ralph's body. Sure, they still had to draw sprites for every single one of Clark's unique animations, but for the few frames of animation that the characters did share, it saved them just enough time to make it worth it.
It's like, bro, can I borrow your body? Sure, bro. Here you go. Thanks, bro. Love you, bro. Yeah, for these two, I'm honestly not mad. They kind of are just like the same fighter with different faces and different styles, but yeah, this makes sense.
If you look at that same
I'm
early
not
design page,
surprised.
you'll notice a whole team of unused characters. We know nothing about them, but this one fighter looks a lot like Raimello, a silent, creepy little girl who was a member of those from the past, implying that these characters were all going to be villains, which does make sense considering this is the first storyline where the villains didn't have their own team in the third game. And they weren't the only cut characters. If you check the art book for KOF 12, you'll see a lot of scrap new character ideas. As for cut returning characters though, Adelheid Bernstein was going to return again as a single entry character. Malin was going to be playable again, and before Huajai and Raiden joined, Chang was once again going to be on Kim's team. And perhaps most shockingly of all, Geese Howard was going to at one point be a secret mid-boss, and when you fight Billy Kane, you can even hear the rendition of Soy Sauce for Geese they had planned for him. I should also bring up that there are several other characters that were rumored to at one point have been planned for the game because sprites were made for them for the KOF 13 trading cards, including Shingo, Whip, Hydern, Ignis, and Orochi himself. But the more I look into it, the more I think they were just made for the trading cards. I haven't found any confirmation from anyone
Fair.
at SNK that they were actually going to be in the game itself. But okay, that's everything worth
Easy
mentioning.
to
Let's
replicate a
finally
frame for a
see how
trading
the
card.
Ash Crimson saga wrapped up. Those from the past had begun to awaken Orochi in the last game and had started sucking up his godly snake powers, but they needed more fight energy to finish the job to open up their gate to go back in time, which is maybe the weirdest sentence I've ever said. So they used Botan's powers to once again mind control Rose Bernstein into hosting another King of...
Oh my god, Rose. Give her a break. She doesn't want to be this way. God damn it.
Fighters Tournament. But since the last game, Ash has now wormed his way into those from the past good graces. I mean, he's already stolen 2 out of the 3 sacred treasures. That looks good on anyone's resume. However, it quickly becomes clear that he is not on their side. Ash Crimson is on Ash Crimson's side. He starts manipulating everyone around.
Yeah, he is certainly...
I really enjoy Ash.
Ash is just so weird with his positioning within the story, too. I can see why people just weren't certain about the character, because there was no way of knowing what they were going to do here. None of the previous protagonists have done this before.
I enjoy an unpredictable chaos agent.
I'm very curious to see how this ends. Like, what was the entire end goal with this? You stole the treasures, so now what?
Him telling Adelheid, hey, you know, your sister's kind of acting weird. Maybe Hyder knows something about that, and, you know, don't you know the Akari warriors? Yeah, they beat you up that time, so you've got his number just laying around. Maybe you should call him up. Then he tells one of the members from those from the past named Shroom, hey, you know that room Psyche keeps telling you not to go in there? How about you go in there? All the cool kids are going in there. So Hyder sends his team of secret agents to investigate the tournament, and lo and behold, they find a secret chamber where Psyche has been using a device to suck up Orochi's power. Then Shroom researches the time gate that Psyche plans on using to go back into the past, only to realize, wait a second, this thing requires us to be sacrificed. I didn't sign up for that. This leads us to the big finale as your team is crowned the champions, only for time to stop as Psyche and his followers appear. Behind them, the giant time gate appears and Psyche transforms into his true form in order to get rid of you once and for all before returning to the past to take over the world. And this fight is... well, it's not super hard, but it is annoying. Psyche tends to stand there and wait for you to come to him, and when you do, he encases you.
His portrait's right up there. He looks really cool.
Yeah, oh yeah. Menacing.
In goo and grabs you, at which point he performs one of the most dehumanizing moves in KOF history. Yeah, get ready to see that a lot. Over and over again.
Oh no. And you just have to like sit there and take it. Like how many times are you gonna do it? You just have to put down your controller for a few seconds. Like just rub salt into the wound, why don't you? Damn it.
But if you're having problems with this fight, let me give you a tip. Use Maxima. I'm not just saying that because he's one of my favorite characters, it's because Maxima has a charging command grab, and for some reason, Psyche cannot react to this move. You can just spam this and you'll perfect him.
Awesome. Maxima
That's
stay
the
ready.
levels of cheese equivalent to just me using Outsider on the bosses and doing Night Abyss.
I see. Okay, to explain to people what this is about, so there's a particular character in Duet and Abyss called Outsider who has the ability to go invisible, to stealth mode, let's say. And there are bosses that, while Serbia was leveling up, were too tough for them to beat normally. But for whatever reason, the spaghetti code, the bosses cannot see Outsider while Outsider's in stealth mode. And Outsider can keep spamming stealth mode to stay in stealth mode permanently. So what happens is that you can go to stealth mode, do damage to the boss over time, and just the boss just stands there, doing nothing. It is a thing that will probably get patched, but abuse it while you can, I suppose.
Yeah, how's that feel? How do you like being grabbed and hit with the same move over and over again, Psyche? Then it feels pretty bad, huh? But after you beat Psyche, he shrinks back down to normal and says, you know what? It doesn't matter. Because as soon as I go through that gate, I'm just going to absorb the powers of Orochi and go back in time and wipe out all you humans in the past. And hey, wait, why is that door closing?
Wait a minute.
He looks up and sees that some of the stones that powered the gate are gone. Psyche curses Ash for this, but I'm pretty sure it was actually Shroom who took the stones. Last time we saw him, he was researching how the gate worked, and he wasn't happy about.
I mean, it would make sense. If I knew that I was going to be a sacrifice for this dude to go back into the past, I would probably sabotage the plan. Yeah.
Psyche makes his way to the gate, trying to get to it before it closes, only for Ash Crimson to step in and finally reveal his true plans. You see, the whole reason he had been acting like a villain and stealing the sacred treasures was so that he could convince Psyche to let him join his team and then betray him. Ash reveals to Elizabeth that he never forgot the Blantorch family mission, and all of this was part of his plan to take down those from the past.
Wait, what did Ash just do? Did Ash just punch him through the back? Did he just melt through his hand? What was that? Wait, what is this?
Family mission, and all of this was part of his plan to take down those from the past.
I guess so.
He uses his powers to steal Psyche's soul, at which point he tells Psyche that they're all going to get sent back to the past where they'll live out their lives the way that they were supposed to. Now, okay, I said this story gets confusing, and this is what I was talking about. Because there's a lot that isn't actually said in the game, and a lot that isn't actually said anywhere, and we just kind of have to take our best guess at it. First thing we have to point out is that the reason why Ash looks so much like Psyche is because Ash Crimson is Psyche's descendant. And some of you might be wondering, wait, Ash says he's going to send the villains back to the past where they'll be defeated just as they were supposed to be. But he just sucked out Psyche's soul, isn't he already dead? It's not clearly explained, but I get the sense that because those from the past were never supposed to travel to the future in the first place, and the timeline is some kind of a living being that wants to repair itself, I get the feeling that as long as Ash just sends them back through the door without Orochi's power, then the timeline will naturally reset itself. Again, that's not said anywhere, but it's the only way something coming up can make it.
Me.
I can kind of see it in the same aspect as something like Steins Gate, where Destiny just steps in and gets the job done. Like, the timeline recorrects itself to make sure things stay how they're supposed to be. So, yeah, I could see that sort of aspect coming into play.
Any sense. Have I mentioned yet how glad I am that the KOF games decided to tackle time travel?
My brain is melting. How can events happen before the ones that happened before?
And lastly, if you're like me, you're probably wondering what the heck Ash Crimson's powers are. He's got the green flames, and he can also steal sacred treasures out of people's bodies.
Take their souls.
And now he can apparently steal souls as well? Yeah, this one was never explained anywhere, but I do want to thank a Twitter follower who sent me a link to a tweet from Akihiko Orishino, the man who did many of the light novels for SNK. In other words, the guy who actually explained a lot of the lore for many of these games. He says that the way he was told it is that Ash was born with only one power, the ability to steal other people's powers. Kind of like Rogue from the X-Men. But Ash was an orphan who was adopted by the Crimson family, and the Crimson family was born with the ability to produce green flames. But the Crimson family mysteriously died, and it was then that the Blantorch family adopted Ash since they were friends with the Crimsons. Now, even though it was never...
It's kind of funny that their name is Crimson, and yet they produce green flames, but, you know, we'll take it.
...said anywhere. This leads me to believe that maybe Psyche's followers, or maybe even Ash's real parents who were loyal to Psyche, knew Ash had these powers, so they left him to be adopted by the Crimsons, knowing that this would get him close enough to their sworn enemies, the Blantorch family. But then, when he was a small child, Ash's powers activated, and he stole the Crimson family's flame powers. And without the knowledge of how to control it just yet, this accidentally resulted in the Crimson family's death. Leading to Ash now being raised by Psyche's sworn enemies, the Blantorch family. And at this point, you're probably thinking, wait, but the Blantorch estate burned down and Elizabeth's whole family was killed. You mean to tell me that Ash killed his adopted family just to get close to Psyche? That sounds pretty bad. That doesn't sound like the secret plan of a hero. That definitely sounds like the act of a villain. Well, here's the thing. We always assumed that Ash was the one who burned down the estate and killed his adopted family because all we knew was that their home burned down. So of course, the guy with fire powers seems like the obvious culprit. But we never knew what color the flames were that burned their home down. If they were green, then yeah, it was probably Ash. But we don't know.
Who else would it be?
However, based on what we do know, I would say that more than likely those from the past had arrived here in the present, and then they were the ones who tried to kill the Bland Torch family by burning their home down to make sure they couldn't interfere in their plan. Then when Ash realized Psyche had returned, he decided to leave Elizabeth so he could carry out his family's mission to defeat Psyche himself. I realize I am making a ton of assumptions here, but listen, I love King of Fighters and I love that they plan out these big elaborate stories, but sometimes these stories don't go from A to B to C. Sometimes they go from A to G and they just tell you, yeah, there's a couple of other letters in there, don't worry about it. So, Ash had sucked out Psyche's soul. The door to the past was closing. All he had to do was shove all the villains back inside and then the day is saved, right? Well, except for one problem. Psyche's soul is too strong for Ash to absorb into himself and he ends up overtaking him. So now, Psyche is in control of Ash's body, and thus is born the true final boss of the game, Dark Ash. Meaning I can now finally play this Army of Darkness clip that's been stuck in my head for the last 2 hours.
I'm bad Ash, and you're good Ash. You're goody little two-shoes. You're goody little two-shoes, goody little two-shoes, little goody two-shoes.
What is happening?
Sorry, I had to get that out of my system. Now, Dark Ash...
Oh my god.
I don't know what that is, but it's great.
That is, yeah, it's so fitting for this one. Somehow it just works, yeah. And of course, you have to have like a dark version of your protagonist. That was the trend.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you gotta have the...
must be continued.
Yeah.
Is essentially, what if Ash didn't have to charge his attacks, and he could just spam one special move after another? If he starts zoning you out, he will never stop zoning you out. But he does have one big weakness. His legs. Yeah, he doesn't know how to guard his feet, so as long as you keep attacking low, you're pretty good. And like with most zoners, the moment that you get in there, apply some pressure and he'll go down.
Yeah, they're done for.
After being defeated, Ash is able to regain control of his body, and he stands there watching as the giant gate closes. Psyche begs Ash to go through the gate, saying that if he walks through, then the two of them can survive and they can still take over the world. But Ash just stands there, letting the gate finally close and vanish away. Ash then turns to Elizabeth and tells her that he's sorry, and that because he didn't send Psyche back through the gate, that means that he could never eventually have a kid, which means Ash himself was never born.
Would never exist, yeah.
This is another reason I'm pretty sure that if Ash just sent Psyche's body through the gate, then it would have caused everything to still live out the way it was supposed to. Otherwise, it would have caused a time paradox, which is exactly what was happening now. Because Ash didn't go back through the gate, Psyche couldn't return to the past, meaning Ash could never have been born. And so, Ash apologizes to Elizabeth for everything that he had done before he fades away. This causes everyone around the world to forget about Ash and what he did, except for Elizabeth and her team. They win the KOF tournament this year, but they can't help but feel like something is wrong. They can't help but feel like something from their lives is missing, as Elizabeth rides away and sheds a single tear over her lost friend who never existed. And that's it. That's how the Ash saga wraps up. As I said, this was certainly a divisive chapter for KOF, and not just because trying to figure out all the time travel stuff at the end caused my head to catch on fire.
This broke me. The dot over the I. That broke me. I'm done.
No, because over the course of preparing for this video, I have had many people contact me who love Ash Crimson, and many people who hate Ash Crimson. It was pretty much right down the middle on this one. But what do I think about Ash? Honestly, I'm fine with Ash. I mean, I'll admit he is my least favorite of the KOF heroes, but I still think he's alright. However, looking back at this entire story, looking at the complaints that people have about Ash, I think he would have gone over far better if he hadn't been the hero and instead he had been the rival of the story. I know the entire premise of Ash...
That's probably true.
I could see that, yeah, 100%.
If he had been in like Iori's role.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And having that like sacrificial moment at the end from a rival, like somebody who we've seen as an enemy this entire time, I think could have certainly been a lot more impactful than him trying to be the protagonist and us not really being sure whether we should be, backing him or not.
I also kind of see the thought too of having like the character introduced as the hero, and you're like, yeah, they're the hero, except they're not. They're the villain? Question mark. How does this work? And then in the end, you're like, oh, they were the hero all along.
I can certainly see that thought process, and I guess it's really up to preference at that point, as it is with everything, right? Overall, though, I do appreciate what they were going for with this story. It is somewhat of like a plot that I do enjoy from media, so yeah, I'll take it. That whole like heroic sacrifice at the end being forgotten by time. As a fan of time travel shows, yeah, that's right up my alley.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can think of a few characters that fall into that same category that I enjoy. No, I think it's not shocking that Ash is probably my favorite character they've shown so far. I enjoy him a lot.
Yeah. That said, I do understand why he's divisive, and I can certainly see the reasons why. Again,
I can see it more now, yeah.
Matter of preference.
Was what if our next hero was a villain? And I do think that's a cool idea, but I don't think that idea worked the way they planned this all out. You see, I already laid out a few of the problems that people had with Ash, but now that the story is over, I realize there's a few other issues that were probably a bigger deal for the fans. For starters, it's a small thing, but I understand people having a problem with Ash being introduced by taking out the Sacred Treasure members. I mean, when you introduce your new hero by having him beat up the previous stars of the game, it does kind of come off like the company is saying, look at how cool our new character is. Boy, he sure is better than those old characters.
Generally, I've said that before too. Like, when you have something you love and someone else is trying to introduce you to something new, don't go into it being like, that thing you love, this is even better, because that just makes people defensive. You're like, no, it's not going to be better than this thing that I already know and love.
This exact thing happened with the Transformers cartoon, where they wanted to sell more toys, but, all the previous ones have kind of been sold to hell and back again. So what we're going to do is we're going to force the writers of the cartoon to kill off the entire cast and introduce this new line of Transformers. But we're also going to make it so that Hot Rod, the new Transformer, is going to be part of the reason why Optimus Prime dies. He wasn't the one who did it, but he did cause Optimus Prime's death. And that went over so well.
I can see that. That would be, yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I don't think there's even a mention of Hot Rod at all in any of the Transformer movies or current Transformer media. Because we walk that back real quick. I'm surprised they can name a
character Hot Rod. I feel like that's trademarked.
I think his official name was something else. It was something Prime. But when your character calls off Optimus Prime, basically, every kid's favorite Transformer, yeah, that's not gonna go well. So, yeah, in that aspect, I understand what the thought process was here and how it could come off as this. Yeah, I see it. We have hindsight, thankfully, but you guys who were there didn't, so understandable.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is the sort of thing that leaves a sour taste in fans' mouths. But more importantly, the biggest complaint that people have with Ash is that in the Orochi Saga and the Ness Saga, sure, you had our main hero, but many other characters felt like they mattered, like they had their own stories. But when it comes to the Ash Crimson Saga, yeah, Ash is pretty much the beginning and the end. In the Orochi Saga, he was the hero, but Iori and Chizuru were connected to Orochi, Hydron and Leona had important stories, Mature and Vice were important, heck, even Yamazaki was revealed to be connected to the overall plot. In the Ness Saga, Kate Ash is our protagonist, but you can't tell the story of the Ness Saga without Maxima, without Whip, without Vanessa, or Ramon, or Seth, or Benimara, or Kyo. But in the Ash Crimson Saga, listen, I like Duolan, I like Shinwoo, they're good characters, they're fun to play as, I dig their designs,
I mean, neither of these characters were privy at all to what Ash had planned, so they didn't really move his plan along. They were just a part of it, unknowingly.
I feel like this falls into the category of great idea, mediocre execution. I think when you tackle something as complicated as time travel, it's easy to get lost in the sauce.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I feel like if they had time to polish it off a little more, maybe give it a little bit more room to grow, maybe not be under so many time crunches and other things, this could have been like everyone's favorite arc. Like, it has the potential to be something awesome.
Yeah.
But as it is, like you said, having the other characters not matter as much is definitely a flaw in like writing that you can pinpoint to a lot of things. That just makes things feel less well-rounded or less full of depth, I guess.
Yeah.
This is a complaint that a lot of people have with solo leveling, which is a very valid complaint, right?
It is.
The only character that matters in solo leveling is
Jinwoo. Yeah. Basically.
I think also, since we're getting this as a summary and not as like the part-by-part story, it also sounds better in a summary. I'm going to go out on a limb there and say.
When you're waiting an entire year to play one of these games and then it comes out and then you don't get any real answers as to what the heck Ash is doing and nobody else really seems that important, it's like, what the fuck, bro? I see what you're saying, though. Like, this story does have the makings of like a really freaking good like time travel mystery protagonist from villain to hero sort of reveal thing. I could see all these moments hitting. It's just we needed a different sort of execution to it. We needed some other cast members to come along with us on the journey too, to have some sort of important role, things happening in the background that actually mattered, right? Outside of Ash.
Yeah.
But this is probably a case of, as you said, like, a company was going through a lot of ups and downs, and there was definitely some budget cuts. A lot of budget cuts here and there.
I mean, we know that this was intended to be part of 12, but then they couldn't finish 12, so it got pushed back. So it's like...
Yeah, we probably skipped a part here. Maybe something that could have expanded upon it more. And the other parts too, where maybe a lot of resources were put towards maximum impact, and that didn't really pan out. And so, yeah, we did the best with what we had, and I appreciate it for what it is, but it could have been better.
Personalities. But end of the day, did they actually matter to this story? They didn't have any connections to those from the past. Any individual stories they had didn't really matter. I mean, both Duo Lon and Lin in the Nest Saga were looking for Ron. Difference is, Lin actually found him because Ron was tied to the plot. Duo Lon just drops that whole storyline after the first game because nobody remembered Ron. And I know someone is going to say, no, they do matter to the plot because Duo and Shin are both Ash's friends and they're concerned about him. Exactly.
That's
Duo
it.
and Shin only really exist in here because they're Ash's friends. They only matter because they're connected to Ash. You could have created any character with any motivation, with any backstory, as long as they were connected to Ash. That's all that would matter. And I hate saying it.
So the character that has the most significance here is probably Elizabeth, but even then it seems pretty minimal to the plot.
Yeah, actually true. I mean, Elizabeth is directly connected to Ash and his whole backstory too. And then her house and her entire family getting burned to crisps. Yeah.
But it's like you could remove her from that plot and it could still continue.
That is kind of sad to think about, because considering like how popular of a character she is too in her own right.
I mean, she's cool. Like, we're glad, same with like Duo Lon and all that. It's like, I'm glad they're here. But yeah, it would have been nice to have them a little more entwined in the story.
We cooked with the design. We had the idea. We just fumbled the ball a little bit when we were trying to connect these characters into the story.
Yeah.
For Elizabeth. I know someone is going to say, no, she matters because it was her family destiny to defeat Psyche. Yes, it was. Did she? No. That was Ash Crimson. Sure, she defeated Megaki in the second game, and K-Dash defeated Mukai in the first game, but end of the day, did it matter who beat them? Did that ever actually come up or play into the plot in any way? It could have been anyone. It doesn't even play into any character's individual endings. In the end, Elizabeth's important to the storyline is that she's there so someone can talk about Ash. Same thing goes for the Sacred Treasures. They're important to the plot, so they can bring focus to Ash. Because this whole story is just focused on Ash.
Ash is the
Whenever Ash
of King of Fighters.
That is probably a true statement. No truer statement has been said this entire video. It really is that. And I mean, you enjoy solo leveling. I enjoy solo leveling for that reason. Because like Sujin was a cool character. I think Ash is cool.
Yeah.
But we do acknowledge that there are faults with that kind of storytelling, which are being made very clear here. Yeah.
Crimson isn't on stage. Someone should be asking, where's Ash Crimson? He was so big, he completely outshined the actual villains of the game. Those from the past are probably the most forgettable villains in the entire series because Ash is the entire focus.
Honestly, yeah. They didn't really feel as impactful as Omega Rugal or Zero or, yeah. Any of these Orochi.
Wait.
Wait. Yeah. They don't feel as impactful as me, obviously. I mean, you guys know me, right? I'm here. Yeah. I think even like Orochi, Sherby, and Chris, they were just a lot more fun than those from the past. Those from the past just kind of showed up and they're here, I guess, to be the ones to make Ash look cool, which kind of unfortunate.
I think too, when you set up an expectation, because like the stories previously had that kind of, I guess, enveloping story that made all the other characters and all the other teams matter more. It's like something like solo leveling. That's all it ever meant to be. Like the story doesn't ever set you up with an expectation that like, oh, you're gonna follow these other characters and they're gonna matter for a moment. It's like, no, it was always the Sun Jin Woo show. Whereas with Ash, you have the expectations of the previous chapters for how things are gonna go. So then when it just becomes the Ash Crimson show, you're like, that's not what I signed up for, though.
Exactly. Just like seeing the cover of Solo Leveling, you knew that it was gonna be power fantasy, right? Like, that's why we're here. But yeah. With the storytelling of the previous arcs being so in-depth with every single character mattering so much, and even the side characters that didn't show up in the fighting game itself, just in like cutscenes or even just mentioned showing up randomly in the story to have a pivotal role, that was kind of amazing. Like the storytelling there was great, but those were different times. Different times with a different budget.
But again, I feel like that's what happens when you try and go from something that is a lot more street level from a lot of the previous, even like the big secret organization stuff, right? It's pretty containable. Whereas you start going into time travel stuff, like I said, it's easy to get kind of overwhelmed in the entire making the time travel stuff make sense and having the whole full circle with Ash, which I enjoy the payoff of, but it's like, it's going to take up the writer's entire focus.
Yep.
And you see they just didn't quite give enough time to the other things to let them cook long enough. I would say it's an amateur mistake when it comes to big concept stories like that. You see it a lot in stories that try to really just tackle really big concept ideas like this. And that's fine. Like I can still enjoy it, but you also compare it then to other things, like you said, like Steins Gate, who can do so much more. So you kind of flipping both sides. You lose kind of the original audience. The people who would enjoy this kind of story probably are going, well, it's fine.
Now that you mention it like that, you could kind of describe all of SNK's actions, SNK Playmore's actions as that, right? Like we've allocated a lot of time into this one specific thing. And then we kind of forgot to do the other things. And that kind of caused everything else to sort of collapse. Like, we improved Maximum Impact 2 from the first Maximum Impact, but we forgot to have a marketing team that actually knew what the heck they were doing. You know? We put a lot of time into making these beautiful 3D sprites by making the 3D models and drawing all over them, but we didn't think about actually finishing the game. Like, we would be able to do it in time, or actually have a story for it, or any of these things. We've invested so much time and money into this one specific thing that didn't really help us.
They seem to have trouble balancing everything on their plate. Just a little bit.
I don't know where that would come from, because I mean, I guess SNK even back then were just way too invested in everything. Like, they made so many different games at the time, and some of them paid off, most of them probably didn't.
Yeah, I don't know about SNK as a whole for that, but that seems to be the case.
Somewhere something failed in management, and we made some poor decisions.
The fact that this was the first storyline not named after the villain group. It was named after Ash because he was the only character that really mattered. And part of that does come down to the fact that Ash is our hero and he's also kind of the villain, so he's sort of taking up both roles in this storyline.
It's all about Ash.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problems with Ash would have been resolved if he had been the rival and Elizabeth had been the hero. Imagine this. Imagine Elizabeth pops up in KOF 2003 instead of Ash, and she enters the tournament because her friend disappeared and she's trying to find him.
Actually, you know what? That would have been such a sick idea. You know, our first like
Yeah, I like
female
that.
protagonist of the KOF,
That would
you
have been
know.
sick, yeah.
Uh-huh.
She talks about him in her backstory and in the arcade ladder, but
She
then
has
she
good
runs into
protagonist
Mukai,
energy,
and that's
too.
when we
Yeah.
learn about her family's connection to those from the past. Then you play through the Sacred Treasures arcade mode, and that's when you get your first glimpse of Ash. And you as the player go, wait, that's the guy Elizabeth was looking for, but that was her friend. And he's evil. Wait, her...
And yeah, that effectively puts Ash straight in Iori's position, right? With Iori showing up and being the evil rival. But then, you know, he turns out to be a good guy. Yeah.
friend turned into a bad guy? Oh man, that's a big deal. Then, as the story goes on, we wouldn't have all the attention focused on Ash. It would be more evenly split between Ash and Elizabeth. And it would provide more focus on those from the past, since Elizabeth is our hero and it's her destiny to wipe them out. And since Ash wouldn't be our hero, but instead the rival of the story, when he pops up and takes out the characters from the previous games, it would feel less like SNK was saying, look at how cool this new guy is, you have to like them now, and more like they were trying to hype up what a big threat he would be to the overall story. And if our hero was Elizabeth, we could get a more emotional connection to the story because the hero trying to save their old friend from going down a dark path only to learn that they were good all along is a much more emotional story than this French guy is doing something mysterious, but we won't say what. And heck, it would make for a much better twist in the last game because in KOF 13, when Ash turned out to be good, it wasn't really that big of a surprise because, well, yeah, he's the hero of the saga. We kind of figured he wasn't all bad, but if he was the rival, it would be a genuine surprise. But again, that's just me. I know that everyone has their own opinions on this storyline. As I said, it was pretty divisive.
With all that Thorgi said there, I have to agree that ultimately, in general, that would likely make the story better. Like, there's a very high probability that people will be a lot more invested in the saga if that's how the story had played out.
I agree.
I would 100% be behind that too. Like we were saying, there's good parts to it. It's just the perspective needs to kind of shift, and that would certainly achieve that.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one way that they could have fixed it.
Came of KOF 13, you may ask. Yes, remember the Maximum Impact series tanked hard after the first game, and KOF 12 did not sell what SNK needed it to. So there was a lot riding on KOF 13, and SNK did support this game. Heck, it even became their first game to have DLC characters add with Nest Kyo, Classic Iori with his flame powers, and Mr. Karate, the masked alternate persona of Takuma. And like many DLC characters, they were insanely overpowered and completely wrecked the whole meta, but let's go back to those sales numbers. When King of Fighters 13 was released, it actually saw far better sales than KOF 12, selling almost 3 times what KOF 12 did in its first 2 months. And it would go on to sell roughly 600,000 copies, and shockingly enough, a little over half of those sales came from the Xbox 360, so hey, I guess that big Western push finally bore some fruit in the end. However, while definitely an improvement, it was still far from what SNK wanted, or more accurately, what they needed. King of Fighters 12 and 13 took so many years and cost so much money, they needed this thing to sell, and 600K was still underperforming, especially compared to every other major fighting game franchise being released at the time. This was during the 7th gen fighting game boom, and this was still selling worse than not just Street Fighter or Tekken, it was selling worse than brand new franchises like BlazBlue. But why? This game was being applauded left and right, and it fixed the problems people had with 12. Heck,
I
they
wonder
even
if this
brought...
falls into a problem of being the conclusion to a saga that had mixed sales from the beginning.
Potentially, like a track record that leads to poor sales because people sort of expect it or aren't really enjoying the current saga.
Even then, because it's like, if it had poor sales, it means not a lot of people played the original, like, earlier ones. Or, like, if you knew that there were games between A and B that you didn't touch, like, even if you, like, knew Maximum Impact existed, we're like, does that connect to the story? I don't know. Do I want to jump into the ending right now? Yeah, I don't know. Like, right?
Yeah. Like, do I have to play KOF 2006, whatever that is, in order to understand this? Yeah.
Just to kind of confuse all of those people who, like, maybe would be interested, but, like, don't know everything prior to it.
And unfortunately, Thorgi probably wasn't there to explain it to everybody how all this came to be, and so, Yeah, its sales numbers dropped. And Thorgi needs to travel into the past to help out SNK here.
True.
My back. And you said you would buy if there was my, so why didn't you buy? Well, sadly, there is an answer to that. It's that you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
As I said, SNK was really trying to push King of Fighters to sell in America during this time because that's where the money was. However, America didn't really know KOF. It's the one spot in the planet where the franchise just never took off.
I didn't know about KOF until like really getting into fighting games and learning more about them. As a complete casual, I knew about Street Fighter. I knew about Tekken. I even knew about Soul Calibur, actually, and Dead or Alive. But King of Fighters, Fatal Fury, didn't know about them. A lot of the SNK side of things I didn't know.
Like, I knew the name of it, same with like Fatal Fury, and those two have still, I get confused in my brain every once in a while. But it's like I said, like even with like the Sims 2, like mods that I had in the past, it's like I've seen the name around on the internet, but I never really knew anything about it. Whereas like Street Fighter, I have a little bit more presence of, even if I have never played them. Same with like Tekken or like Mortal Kombat. It's like King of Fighters is one that it's like I know it exists, and that's kind of the extent of my knowledge of it.
You are more well informed than I was. For those of you who watch the streams or you're just OG members and whatnot, you guys probably remember what I said. Like, what does SNK stand for? What fighting game is that? I didn't even know SNK was a freaking company. Okay, so yeah, we started from zero here.
Well, thanks to that fighting game boom I just mentioned, this was the best chance SNK was ever going to have to win this audience over. This is when everyone was picking up fighting games left
saturated.
and right. And that's when SNK released King of Fighters 12. A bare-bones game with almost no roster, no single-player content, and a trash online scene.
Couldn't we have just like delayed it for the anniversary?
It would have been better.
That would have been so much better.
Unfortunate.
So at a time when everyone was paying attention to fighting games, every single critic on the planet was telling people to stay away from KOF. So, when King of Fighters 13 came out in 2011, not only had a lot of that fighting game hype begun to die down, and everyone wasn't just crazy to pick up the latest fighting game no matter what it was, but also everyone thought, oh yeah, this is that thing that I heard was bad, right? I'm not going to check that out. But what about the rest of the world, where KOF had always sold well? I mean, if it was able to survive outside of America before this, then surely it doesn't need those sales numbers now. Well, remember, this was the very first KOF to get put on brand new consoles.
What do you call it? The bottom half of his shirt.
I love this is just a feast for the eyes, honestly. This game looks amazing.
I'm enjoying the sprites so much.
And it didn't look good while all the other games out there were providing much better options at the time. So yeah, even in countries where KOF used to sell incredibly well, they couldn't really rely on that anymore for KOF 13. If SNK had just waited and let the team finish the game the way they wanted, then maybe things would have gone differently. Or maybe that was never a possibility. This game was already costing a ton of money and they spent years making it. Maybe giving the devs that extra year was never an option. So yeah, the era of SNK Playmore, which
weirdly reminds me of Hello Games with No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there. They were
it's like they
not
had to
ready.
put it out. It was not what they promised on Kickstart. It was underdeveloped. Eventually, they were able to push through and fix it and get everything that they had wanted to kind of get out there. But at that point, they already had that reputation, and they lost kind of that window where people were interested.
It's just a substantially better game now, but yeah, the hype around it died, and we didn't deliver the product during that hype, so we sort of lost out on that. I still commend them, though, for bringing it back somehow. Like, most studios would probably just abandon the project and move on. In that particular case, I blame the publisher. I was like, they were a small indie team trying to make a really big project, and they were forced into a release date.
I mean, they kind of pushed a lot of that on themselves, too, with overpromising and Kickstart. They had a Dream Too Big problem. But
well,
yeah,
the SNK also has a Dream Too Big problem, apparently, too.
That's what they very much remind me of each other in this situation in particular.
Star with so much promise was now turning sour. Maximum Impact and KOF 12 and 13 were back-to-back 1-2 punches of disappointment. This was strikes 1 and 2 for the company. Well, actually, that's not true. They were more like strikes 6 and 7. Yeah, these weren't the only big projects SNK had made over the past few years that
Capcom
did not
SNK.
pan out for them. Yes, after going bankrupt from
SNK
dumping too much cash into too many failed projects, SNK was doing it all over again because burning money was in SNK's blood. In fact, they spent so much time and money on KOF 12 and 13 that rumors were spreading that SNK was going to go bankrupt again. Although those were just rumors. As far as I can tell, there was never any actual threat of that happening. So, hey, as long as SNK wasn't going to go out of business again, that means there was still hope to turn all this around, right? Sure. If they wanted to. And SNK didn't want to. I said Maximum Impact and KOF 12 were strikes 6 and 7. Well, strike 1 came years before this. You remember way back at the start of this episode when I said that Ben Herman, president of SNK USA, said that SNK had plans to develop games for the PS2 and the Xbox and next generation consoles? Well, what I didn't tell you is the reason why he had to come out and make that statement. Because right before this, SNK Playmore's president, Koichi Toyama, said that the company would be moving in a different direction, investing in the exciting new field of...
You can't fucking escape it.
Oh, no.
Get this off my screen! Why?
We're back to the pachinko. No.
How is this a good idea? The company died to this before. It's gonna die to this again. Nothing changes.
No, but now it's internal. They're doing it to themselves.
Damn it.
Not the pachinkos.
Fucking higher management, man.
Oh my god.
Yes, Koichi Toyama said in January of 2004 that SNK would be, quote, moving its core business focus from games to pachinko slot machines. We will concentrate our resources on the rapidly growing and highly profitable business of slots.
When you live so long, you see yourself become the very villain that murdered you in the past. Do we not remember any of the history of the company? God.
Yes, you heard correct.
I have no
After
words.
SNK had been bought up by a company that just wanted to use them for pachinko machines and drove the company into bankruptcy for it, forcing the devs to all form their own new companies so that they could buy back each of their old titles one by one, the new president of SNK wanted them to focus on pachinko machines.
First time.
That's why Herman had to come out and reassure everyone, no, it's cool, it's fine, we're still going to be making regular video games. And hey, for many years they did. But then they had one failure after another, and suddenly the games weren't being profitable anymore, while the patchy slot scene kept bringing in money for almost no effort.
Gambling is a curse on humanity. Fucking A.
We'd go from pachinko to gacha, ruining the gaming industry.
Well, the gachas ruined an entire generation of gamers. People just can't understand like how to appreciate a game that actually lets you play the game. They're like, where's my energy system? I can't control myself. I'm gonna burn myself out from playing the game. Brother,
I'm actually gonna play the game. This is the end of the world.
Time management. You can play this on your weekend. The game doesn't need you to play it now every single day. Do you understand? God.
No, Zero. I have no self-control. I will play it Actually, this is true. I will.
Yeah, you do. Oh my god. But yeah, it's certainly been an interesting time. There have been a lot of things that have been made apparent about the current gaming industry and I guess gamers in general. That's just really sad. It's really sad to see, especially for the gacha gamers.
I've heard the name Psyche more in the last few weeks than I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, actually, spelled differently 3 different ways, and yet it's still the same Psyche. Oh boy. So you guys, most of you guys probably are gonna get this joke. Well, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus here, but like, if you know, you know. No. Yeah. But man, it's been interesting, and I can't believe that we can't escape it. When I'm trying to learn about cool ass fighting game lore, it still goes back somehow. This is unbelievable. I am genuinely pissed off. Like, I am upset.
Honestly,
I am heated at this. If I was at the company and my leader man said this, I'm quitting.
But hey, there was still hope. Koichi Toyama ended up stepping down as president of SNK in 2009, and he was then replaced by Ryo Mizufune.
Oh.
He could end up turning everything around.
Maybe.
Oh wait, he actually wants them to focus even harder on pachinko. Okay, never mind, we're screwed no matter what. Many developers at SNK didn't feel right about this. They felt like the company was just tearing itself apart again.
Okay.
And it even led to the producer of King of Fighters 13, Masaki Kukino, leaving the company just a few months before the game was released.
That would be me. If I was the director and my leader man said this, I leave. Go work for a better company.
Wow, the head of SNK wants to focus on pachinko machines, and now the leading devs are leaving the company in disgust. I am having the worst case of deja vu right now. This would once again lead to SNK having to come out and address this, as 1 week after Masaki Kukino left the company, an SNK representative released this simple statement. In response to internet rumors from earlier this week, SNK is planning to release a full slate of games in 2011 and expects to continue publishing games worldwide for many years to come. Oh, whoo! Okay, good. Nothing to worry about here, folks. We got a rich lineup of games coming in 2011. That's good to know. Let's go ahead and see what they did release that year. A mobile game, a collection of old games, a pachinko game, and 2 other mobile games. Right. That was the year King of Fighters 13 ended up releasing on home consoles. I mean, it actually released the year before this in arcades, so that's more of just a port that already came out, not really a new game. In fact, it kind of feels like you're missing new games in this rich, full slate of yours. Oh, no. Yes, SNK's higher-ups decide to embrace the very beast that had devoured them just a few years before, and they decided that now they wanted to break into pachinko machines, and with every passing year, and with one underperforming home console or arcade release after another, their lust for gambling machines grew stronger and stronger. All leading up to King of Fighters 13 being the last new console game they would create for the foreseeable future. For the next several years, SNK only released 3 types of games: repackaged collections of older titles, pachinko machines, and super predatory mobile games. Or to put those 3 into simpler terms, endless trash! Yes, SNK had now given up on making games and instead just wanted to focus on quick bucks through whatever greedy method they could use. They were Konami before Konami. And what makes this truly heartbreaking was that they did it to themselves. This wasn't like with Aruzi, where another company came in and bought them up. No, this time the call was coming from inside the house. And that means that there was no way out of this. When another company owns you and screws you over, someone else can buy you up and change course. Not really the case when you're the ones in charge and you're the ones making the bad decisions. But there's still hope. I mean, okay, SNK doesn't want to make games anymore, but maybe they could license the games out or hire another studio to make the new games for them. Nope. SNK would still have to spend money in order to hire a new studio to come in here and make their games for them, and after their last few flops, they didn't want to spend any more money on anything. Best to spend practically nothing on pachinko and mobile games and then just sit back and watch the addiction cash flow in. Oh, well, okay, so SNK just wanted money. Well, maybe someone else could buy the titles from them, and then they could take these titles from SNK, and then they could make their own King of Fighters. Nope. SNK didn't want to make new games, but they didn't want to sell their franchises either, because then they couldn't turn them into pachinko machines.
Of course,
they were
yeah.
going to keep these legendary characters trapped in limbo forever, so that way they could be patchy slots and mobile games
so
for
bad
the rest
seeing these
of
characters on the
time.
pachinko machines.
It
It
does.
is so bad.
They have such a storied history with all the developers that have worked on creating them, bringing them to life. And so many fans out there waiting to see where their story is going to go from here. And now they're
It's
just
like watching
here.
my beloved characters as a lifeless puppet on screen.
My day is ruined. My day is
Honestly,
ruined.
What a depressing end to this video.
My disappointment is
Goddamn.
immeasurable. God,
God damn it. I'm actually genuinely upset
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yes, we're here to
Yes,
suffer.
after all this time, after fighting and struggling so hard to rebuild itself
the
back
asteroid
from
feels
the
pretty
brink
great now.
of death, SNK was their own worst enemy. They were both hero and villain.
Let's go back to that.
The hero and villain. No, the Ash Saga. No. No.
Damn it.
That was it.
No.
The story was over. King of Fighters had created so many beloved characters. It had revolutionized storytelling in fighting games. It had built up a library that other companies couldn't dream of matching and had practically become a religion in some parts of the world. But now, none of that mattered, because SNK had decided to close down its gaming wing for good. And nothing was going to change that. The story of one of the biggest fighting games on the planet had come to an end. Not with a bang, but simply by fading away, left
So
by
the
their own
fucking
creators
pachinko.
to be forgotten.
I never knew I could hate pachinko so much.
I hate all gambling. I must destroy it with my very own hands.
How does this turn around? Like, actually, though. Because we know there's 2 more games at the very least.
Yep.
Folks, thank you very much for tuning in to part 3 of our King of Fighters retrospective. I have
Okay.
no idea how these
Alright.
How
videos
could
keep
you
getting
end it
longer with
like
each
this?
episode, but I'm really hoping that you guys enjoyed this, and thank you all for sticking around until the end.
I was until
We
the
only
last
have 1 part left, and after that cliffhanger ending, you'll want to come back to learn how the heck SNK managed to come back once
I can't wait for
again.
next week when we record.
Plus,
Yeah, I
next
need to
time
know.
We'll be covering not only the
How did this
latest
go
2
down?
KOF games, but also all the spin-offs as well. And trust me, there are some weird ones in there you don't want to miss out on. And if you still haven't hit that subscribe button and rung that bell and followed me on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade,
Subscribe
then
to
make sure
Thorgi.
that you do that in order to
Link
know when
top
the
of the
next
description.
episode goes up. And if you
This
like
is
these
great.
videos, then feel free to share them
Except
around
for
the
the
web.
last
It
part.
really has been helping our channel grow, and I really appreciate it so much. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Stay safe out there,
No, I'm
and
just
come back
sad.
next time.
No, no, it's just sad fish and sad scientists just sitting here in silence. We don't know what to say. I can't
I don't
believe
recommend this.
I thought we were done with the pachinko arc. I thought what
Like,
was
we
gonna
were certain
happen.
that it was just going to be like they go bankrupt again. right?
Yes, yes. They go bankrupt because they invest too much into this game. And it didn't sell well enough, so they just go bankrupt. But no, even worse.
No, it's so much worse. I could have never in a million years what I would have thought.
Pachinko is just like
I'm so sad.
freaking Lord Palpatine. He just comes back. Pachinko will just come back.
It always comes back.
I am going to throw a fit if SNK goes bankrupt again somehow. because they decide to make pachinko machines. They exist now, and I hope they continue to. Just don't make any stupid-ass decisions. Like, add Ronaldo to your game. Oh, wait, never mind. I guess we'll also maybe learn about how that happened. I don't know when this video was released, and if that was in time for that, but
SNK, why are you like this?
I don't. They have some really talented developers over there. Some really hardworking animators too.
Like, they got a fantastic team of artists. Like, they have some really iconic stuff.
They make banger-ass video games, and then they just shoot themselves. they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. How could you do this?
I want to blame whoever this pachinko guy is. He's the one that named King of Fighters the maximum impact game, and they confused everyone.
This man is the source of all the world's evil. You, who are you? Oh, god damn it! Okay,
He looks like he'd be into the pachinkos.
I don't want to like judge people, but it's really hard. It is really hard in this case. I kind of don't have any sympathy for this one. What a stupid ass decision.
It kind of looks like TV static.
A little bit, yeah.
Blinded by the money.
You know, a lot of companies are.
Check out Duet Night Abyss. No,
why is this such a... Is this just... We're not even sponsored, Derby. Calm down.
Moving away from gacha, I really want this game to be good and succeed, and I'm loving it so far.
I want people to move away from all this gacha gambling bullshit.
This makes me appreciate Pan Studios even more.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. God. Hate it. But anyways, dudes, yeah, I think that's where we're going to call this part here for now. I need to go cool off. That was insane, man. But thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you guys found some sort of enjoyment from this video. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll catch you guys next week for however SNK revives itself.
Right.
Later, dudes.
Bye-bye.